know, you need to let the mayor know that he has
more than homeless people born in America have, or veterans who are down on their luck. They're damn well, they're going to keep coming. Biden needs to do his job, close the border. Hochul needs to work with Adams, not fight. But in the interim, because they're not on the same page, they're going to be more demonstrations, which will be directed at Eric Adams. Because the swagger man with no plan has been away all week. First he went to Martha's Vineyard, then he went to Israel. He's been in the Hamptons the last 3 days. He was there this morning. What is he doing in the Hamptons? He's getting wine dined in pocket line. He is the general who has abandoned his troops. So I'm the interim mayor. I'm the mayor in exile.
A migrant place across the street when I have to worry about my 4-year-old grandson and other people in this community. All I'm going to say is that this is not a place to put these people.
You guys stick around for the full video. This right here is going to be a bit of a doozy, and we've got a lot to go through, from the migrant crisis to the fact that the Democratic Party is going out of their way to try to appear moderate, but yet they found a way to bungle this entire thing like I knew they would. And of course, we have protests on the lawn of Eric Adams, New York mayor. We have protests going on in his front yard.
That protest is just the latest surrounding the asylum seeker crisis here in the city. And at today's event, people on both sides of the debate squared off. CBS 2's Alicia Reed has the latest tonight from Gracie Mansion.
Jessica, those people gathered in front of Gracie Mansion for several hours today, saying there's more the city can do. They claim there are better options, even saying the mayor should house the asylum seekers that continue to file into New York City at his home. They held signs and made speeches. Police were on scene today as the crowd turned rowdy at times. Several people were taken into custody. Now, this is just the latest protest surrounding the migrant crisis. Last week, outraged neighbors on Staten Island rallied for at least 3 nights against asylum seekers being placed in a shelter at the former St. John Villa Academy. Several people were arrested during Friday night's protest. A group of lawmakers and locals had taken the issue to court and won, with a judge issuing a temporary restraining order and blocking the city from placing asylum seekers there. But that was short-lived. Within hours, the city applied for an emergency appeal, and a judge approved it, allowing single women and adult families to stay. The mayor's office released a statement Friday saying it empathizes with residents, but that the city is dealing with a national crisis on its own and that the sites in question are the only options left. New York Governor Kathy Hochul has called on the White House for help, but the Biden administration said it stands firm in its response to the migrant crisis, saying it is limited in what it can do without approval from Congress. The city says so far more than 100,000 migrants have been processed through its intake system. As for the Staten Island issue, that will be heard in court again in early September. From Gracie Mansion, Alicia Reed, CBS 2 News.
I would say that you get what you vote for in this case, but then again, though, at the same time, maybe these people really and truly don't care that the mayor is not there. But then again, though, it's pretty obvious that some people do in fact care. And it's not just the people on Staten Island who are actually upset with this, as you guys will see here soon. But apparently, let's just say that New Yorkers are not exactly good with migrants coming in and taking over more things, as in not just shelters, but of course hotels, things like that there. And of course now the city of New York believes that they're going to be able to call the federal government and ask for more funds to help take care of this little crisis that they have. But let's just go ahead and be honest. Chances are it's probably not going to be taken care of for a while. And I'm not saying this to blackpill anybody, especially if you live in the city of New York. But then again, though, at the same time, though, it is fun to see certain people who have complained about Republicans or conservatives being racist and bigoted and not exactly what we call welcoming, when in reality, the only thing we've been doing is trying to save you from yourselves. But then again, at some point in time, I guess you got to ask yourself a question. Are these people really and truly worth saving?
NYPD officers made several arrests after that violence, including this woman who was seen trying to light the American flag on fire before stomping it into the ground. These migrant protests are now becoming increasingly common throughout the Big Apple as the city's blue leadership remains without an answer to the crisis. So far, over 100,000 migrants have entered the Big Apple in recent weeks, and officials say the city's shelter system is out of room. Many migrants have been left with no choice but to sleep on the streets of this so-called sanctuary city.
Mayor Eric Adams' residents at a rally against the city's failed handling of the situation. Over 100,000 migrants have flooded the Big Apple, and residents say it's time to stop putting migrants before Americans.
We don't want freaking symbolism. We want a plan. We want action. We want these migrants out of our city. Put them on a bus. He said, "Who's your daddy?" And they said, "You are, Joe." And ever since then, it's been a tsunami.
And in other big Democrat cities suffering the consequences of Biden's open border, Texas Governor Greg Abbott sending his 10th bus full of illegals to L.A. The city's Democrat Mayor Karen Bass lashing out.
Los Angeles has not extended an invitation asking for people to come. This is a political act.
Oh, are they? Well, that right there is what I'm here to talk to you guys about. So we got a lot to go through with this, as I'm about to show you guys an additional montage. So apparently what's going on here is that the people in the city of New York, they decided over the weekend to protest out in front of Mayor Eric Adams' home. His mansion, you know, the place that the mayor gets to stay in. Of course, the governor of the state, Kathy Hochul, she's got her own little mansion. She's got her own little place in Albany that she goes to, where she gets to ask the federal government for funds to help her take care of this issue. But then again, though, like I've been saying for a while, these same people, they kind of brought this on themselves. Really quick, you just heard Karen Bass right there in the second clip that came from Fox News. And by the way, it wasn't just Fox News who was reporting this. It was all over Twitter. It was also in the New York Daily News, CBS. Don't worry, I'll come to that in a second. As you guys saw earlier, Curtis Sliwa, the former mayoral candidate that was opposing Eric Adams, he was also taken in handcuffs, and he's, I guess, taken it upon himself to lead the protest, at least the side of the protest that's in Manhattan. But we'll get to Staten Island here in a second. So basically, this person, Karen Bass, who, by the way, is the mayor of Los Angeles, said a while back that she wanted the migrants to come to Los Angeles. Obviously, she's changing her tune. More than likely, the reason for this is because they obviously can't handle the thing of which, by the way, they've been pushing for. Really quick, you're probably thinking to yourselves that liberalism, of course, is a mental illness, which in fact it is. And don't worry, I'll be making another video, a kind of a follow-up to my first video on this topic of liberalism being a mental illness. But I don't think it's the politicians that are mentally ill. I think what it is that the politicians, they lead people who, by the way, are mentally ill, their voter base, into, I'm talking about the infected, okay, not classical libs. I just want you to go ahead and know that right now. I'm talking for the most part about the infected, the people that are absolutely gone. They've led them into believing that they can have this great big giant communist utopia where everything is frickin' free, and obviously that is not the case. I would say that if you really and truly want to red pill somebody on the left, just give them what the hell they want, but at some point in time you got to ask the question, does that even work? Basically what's happened here is, like I've been saying in previous videos, the migrants that are coming into the city, and by the way, they'll find a way to blame Greg Abbott for this, when the only thing Greg Abbott is simply doing is saying, hey, look, if you want to be like Arizona, if you want to be like Texas, if you want to be like New Mexico, fine. We will send you what it is that crosses our borders every day. And of course, the border right now has got spots in it that have, in fact, been welded open. Makes you wonder if it's by design. The only thing Joe Biden had to do was close the border. That's the only thing he had to do in this case. But here we are once again talking about immigration, because obviously immigration is a problem. Illegal immigration. Legal immigration is fine, especially if you go through the system, you apply, and all that type of stuff there. Just good old-fashioned reasonable request, but of course we're dealing with people who are not reasonable. Obviously, these people who are unreasonable have, let's just say they've done this to themselves, but we'll get to that here in a second. I want to talk about Staten Island first. So, in Staten Island, people have obviously, let's just say they've become hip to it. They've actually opened their eyes. They actually see what the hell is going on here, as you will see right now.
About my 4-year-old grandson and other people in this community. All I'm going to say is that this is not a place to put these people.
Just an hour before the migrants arrived, most of Staten Island's Republican elected leaders said they were suing.
Would you want a migrant shelter right across the street? If you answer that question, no way, then you're probably with 99% of the people. If you said, I got no problem, then you're a nut job.
Then they left to go to court, and the migrants moved in right as an emergency hearing was held. Minutes later,
USA! USA! USA!
chanting and cheering. Eventually, Staten Island Borough President Vito Fossella was back, restraining order in hand.
That's your victory. This is yours.
Over his shoulder, migrants began filing back out of the old school.
We won, but the fight is just beginning. We have to continue, and we promise you, they want the fight, we're going to bring them the fight.
Granted, I don't think that woman's concern that she saw at the very beginning is over the fact that the migrants are so much there. I think she's more concerned about the housing situation, how it is that some of these migrants, who, by the way, don't speak English, some of these, by the way, are probably not here for the purposes of actually being in America to thrive in America. They may be here to just guzzle off the system. I know it's going to get me in trouble, and I already know that I'm more than likely going to get the yellow dollar sign, but I think she's concerned more about what could potentially happen to her grandchildren, the children of her children, that sort of thing there. I think she's concerned about that, especially given the fact that there's already high crime in the city. And for the most part, Staten Island had not been touched. You see, Staten Island's a little bit more conservative than Manhattan. It's a little bit more conservative than the Queens. It's a little bit more conservative than the Bronx. It's just a little bit more conservative. People have a little bit more money there. They obviously got that property. They're obviously paying their bills, and they don't want to see their tax dollars go to pay for people who, quite frankly, should not be here. Like I said before, this is just simply Greg Abbott reminding these people, hey, look, you people have a certain mindset. You want us to take care of the problem. Well, guess what? We can't take care of the problem anymore, so we're going to send them to you so that way you can decide what you want to do. Put the old woke virtue signaling to the test, all that type of stuff there. The things that, quite frankly, make these people mentally ill. But once again, though, you got to ask yourself a question. Is it the voters or is it the politicians? Now, you're obviously seeing people wake up to this. And to tell you the truth, it was actually kind of funny to see that some Antifa protesters also got arrested in that exchange too. I mean, I've been showing you guys some stuff in the B-roll footage, especially the stuff that was going on when Sliwa was out there, because Sliwa, of course, has said that the mayor, Eric Adams, has not been there. He's been in Martha's Vineyard. He's been pretty much anywhere and everywhere, I guess trying to get some form of money out of somebody. Of course, he went to Martha's Vineyard to see Barack Obama, so let's go ahead and be honest, where Obama lives at. Obama probably out there telling him, to endure, just endure a little while longer till we get through 2024. And then maybe, just maybe, we'll have the legislative faculties to be able to legalize these people, and then you can actually get federal assistance. Just hold on a little while longer, buddy. Or it could be, you're kind of SOL, we're not really going to help you out. I mean, it could be either one of the two. I mean, it's just the way that it is. I mean, you guys can interpret it however you want, but it seems to me that it's obviously by design. By design, I don't mean by design in the sense that it's supposed to benefit anybody in that area. Let's talk about this for a second, okay? Because I think this is obviously a pretty big deal, and I'm going to be giving you guys some additional proof of this as we go on through this entire video. So I've been saying for a while that WRT, which, by the way, of course, is what I'm showing you now, the actual words that are coming across the screen, is the thing that Tucker Carlson got in trouble for. He went on Fox News one night. He had a monologue. He talked about this issue. He talked about how it was that he believed that people coming across the border were being designed to replace white people and eventually suppress their votes. I disagree with that. I actually think it's designed for something else. And while WRT is very, very much a possibility, let's just go ahead and be honest. And of course, you're going to hear me talk about anti-whiteism in the very next video because NASCAR has got this thing where they're no longer going to be hiring white people. It is what it is. Everybody hates whitey. The thing is this right here, though. In reality, it's really BRT. Yeah, it's BRT, as in, the words I'm rolling across the screen right now. Let me explain why that is the case. You see, it's the only minority group that actually went down in population as far as overall percentage and overall births. Also, to go on top of this, that particular race has got an extremely high abortion rate, and it's also got an extremely high murder rate and extremely high crime rate. They're offing one another in record numbers. Yes, I know I'm probably going to get the yellow dollar sign for this video, but quite frankly, I really and truly don't care with this post. I'm making 2 more videos. It'll be okay. The thing is this right here. They're trying to replace those people who have the dark skin. And I'm not talking about Hispanics, and I'm not talking about dark-skinned whites. I'm talking about black people. They're trying to replace black people. You want proof of this? Make sure you guys watch this all the way through.
To level with New Yorkers, bearing much-needed changes at the border, There does not appear to be a solution to this federal solution problem anytime soon. And that's exactly why I need to talk to you today. This crisis originated with the federal government, and it must be resolved through the federal government. The borders and decisions about who can work are solely determined by the federal government. And since July of 2022, in our first meeting with the President, Mayor Adams and I have championed the idea of a federal designation that would allow the individuals already here in New York the ability to work, to support themselves and their families. The mayor and I said then, and in countless meetings with Congress, the White House, cabinet members, at rallies with labor, press conferences, and working with business, what we've said all along is just let them work and help us out financially. That's why today I have sent a letter to President Biden formally requesting immediate executive action in 4 key areas. First, expedited work authorization so we can get these people out of shelters and into the jobs. Financial support for federal housing vouchers, schools, healthcare, legal services, case management, and shelter for us to provide to these asylum seekers. The use of more federal facilities to construct new temporary shelters. And reimbursement for the cost of our National Guard, which have been on the ground at these shelters throughout the state since last year. You can read my letter to the President at www.governor.ny.gov.
Granted, that really was roughly 1 minute and 46 seconds, but I decided to re-edit this clip, and I want to show you guys the next 30 seconds. Just pay very, very close attention one more time, and you'll see what I mean.
Letter to President Biden formally requesting immediate executive action in 4 key areas. First, expedited work authorization so we can get these people out of shelters and into the jobs. Financial support for federal housing vouchers, schools, healthcare, legal services, case management, and shelter for us to provide to these asylum seekers. The use of more federal facilities to construct new temporary shelters. And reimbursement for the cost of our National Guard, which have been on the...
So she wants federal aid so that way she can get work releases, so that way people who are migrants can go to work. I'm just curious, what kind of work are they going to be doing? Are they going to be working higher end jobs? Are they going to be working the lower end jobs? Are they going to be working in convenience stores? Are they going to be working in restaurants? I mean, it seems to me like they're going to be taking lower end jobs. The idea is just to get these people outside of their outside the shelters. But then she wants more funding for the shelter. And then to go on top of that, she also wants more funding for health care benefits. I'm just curious, who's being given priority here? I mean, doesn't New York City have a pretty high black population? Doesn't it have a pretty high black population that also works a lot of lower income jobs because they can't get a better job? I mean, don't you guys think that maybe it's possible that people who are of color, black Americans, are being replaced by these people who are coming over? Because obviously they want to go ahead and take care of these people. I mean, they want to go ahead and take care of the Hispanics that were brought in rather than the people who actually live in their neighborhood. No, I'm not talking about Whitey. Obviously, you guys saw what happened in Staten Island. They have obviously filed lawsuits. They even got a temporary stay on the ordeal to keep people from coming in. It seems to me like Governor Kathy Hochul is going out of her way to replace certain sections of her population. Karen Bass, I know somebody can sit here and probably think to themselves, but Karen Bass, there's no way in the world she would want to replace black people. Well, maybe it's very possible that maybe she's waking up to the reality of what the hell is going on here, but of course she's not going to say it out loud. Eric Adams, on the other hand, strikes me as an extremely incompetent person. I've always believed that he would be nothing more than a weird alternate version of David Dinkins, who many people believed was the worst mayor in New York City's history long before Bill de Blasio got there. Of course, the thing that I oftentimes get from New Yorkers who live in my area, which, by the way, I do love New Yorkers. Most of the people from New York who move down here are very, very hardworking. They're actually a lot more conservative than you think. They drive around with Henry Rifle bumper stickers, even a few Trump stickers, even some George W. Bush stickers, some old ones. They're actually pretty good people, and some of the people, of course, that moved down here from the city, of course, the exact same way. They wanted to get the hell away from the city because of the crime, and of course, some people want to get away from it because of the laws, the stupidity, the taxes, the extremely high cost of living. And of course, we don't have any problems with anybody when they move down here. It's just the ones who move to the actual cities like, say, Raleigh and Charlotte that come down here and bring the liberal beliefs. You can oftentimes tell how somebody's going to vote when they move state to state based upon the U.S. Census. If they're moving to a rural area, chances are they're probably not going to vote for what the hell they left. So just go ahead and just kind of keep that in mind. The thing is this right here. People in New York are obviously getting tired of this. I mean, it was a city that had a lot of people who left that actual city in the past few years. They moved to places like North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. The same thing happened within the state itself. They moved to much more conservative areas, probably because they're not full-blown libs, and they probably don't like the idea of being taxed to death and having to pay for all these subsidies, which, by the way, is pretty obvious. It's a part of an agenda, and that agenda is BRT, not WRT. Essentially, what's going on here is that you're being replaced. You are being replaced by the governor of New York. You are being replaced by the current Biden administration. You see, if the federal government, if Congress really and truly cared about this issue, they would come up with some sort of solution. Obviously, the Republicans that we have and the ones that we sent to Congress, the ones that I sent to Congress, they're obviously doing exactly what it is that I want them to do, which is withhold the funds so that way people in New York could, or at least the libs, could at least get what the hell it is that other people in other states have got to deal with. It's funny, too, because I have a follow-up to the Oliver Anthony video that I did in which another very, very dumb leftist decided he wanted to attack the guy over the fact that he's like a coal miner or something like that, even though if you actually read into the guy's information, he's not a coal miner. The guy, it was Hassan Piker is who it was. He automatically assumed anybody, everybody from North Carolina or Virginia or West Virginia was a coal miner, when that's not exactly the case. But don't worry, I'll have that video come out. We'll probably come out on Thursday or Friday. The thing is this right here. These people who live in these big cities, especially these leftist types, they're very smug. Virtue signal, of course, you give them a taste of their own medicine, and quite frankly, they obviously cannot take it. Mere fact that they want to take on that burden, or they act like they want to take on that burden, they typically tend to do this not realizing that somebody is possibly going to hold them accountable because they've been believing for a long time that they can't be held accountable. Obviously, at the end of the day, it ends up hurting everybody else who's got to pay for all this type of stuff, and I can see why it is that New York City taxpayers would be upset about the fact that they've got to look at state funds going to people who, quite frankly, are not supposed to be there. Fact of the matter, what should happen in this case is that the border should have been shut a long time ago, but obviously, as you guys can see, it's definitely a part of an agenda. The agenda, of course, is to replace lower-class blacks. That right there is what the hell this entire thing has always been about. It's what the hell it will always be about. Also, something else, too, to kind of go with what I've been saying about Chicago. I also think it's designed to cause a bit of a civil strife in those cities and those areas. After a while, the politicians in other areas are going to have to make a decision. Which one do I choose? Do I choose my black voters or do I choose my Hispanic voters, of which more I have? Which is also another part of another agenda. And I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. This right here is going to sound crazy, but I recall doing a video a long time ago about Alexandria Ocasio-Chavez, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And of course, that video was about the tax the rich dress that she was wearing at the Met Gala. You see, I theorized that what was going on was that the Democrats, like, say, Nancy Pelosi, the ones who claimed that they were more moderate, that they were doing what they were doing by not saying anything to her or allowing her to go out there and wear that dress. Hopefully what would happen is that the people who live in her district would eventually vote her out. The problem is that there's not enough people with sanity there to actually vote her out. So obviously this backfired. The reason why they wanted to do this is because they felt that if they could get her out of office, they could get her out of the way. Of course, that meaning by way of primary. They were definitely not going to choose a Republican. They want a more moderate Democrat, or what would be considered to be a New York moderate, which is a lib in most areas. What they wanted to do was they wanted to fill the House of Representatives with more moderates, so that way they could slowly but surely put the agenda in place, slowly but surely do everything that they plan on doing, which, by the way, was a socialistic agenda. That's really and truly what they've been trying to do the entire time. They've been trying to bring this in slowly, but of course, when people like Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Chavez and the bald-headed lady, Ayanna Pressley, and the one from Missouri, the other fat chick, when they come out here and start screaming and hollering, defund the police and whatnot, obviously you've got to act. And sometimes those acts, of course, lead to some very, very drastic measures, like bringing in a lot of people and saying that you're a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state. Go ahead and come on in. We'll give you wherever the hell you want. Basically, what they were trying to do is they were hoping that the radicals in their party would eventually be gotten rid of, so that way they could then pass themselves off as moderates, seeing how it is that the radicals are who the hell the moderates really and truly are on that side of the aisle. They just plan on implementing this agenda a little bit more slowly. Essentially, they've bungled this. They know that they cannot pay for this, but of course they're asking the federal government for funds because obviously the states cannot take care of this. But then again, though, it doesn't look to me like the federal government is going to want to actually do anything. But then again, though, don't be surprised if some swamp Republicans don't join with some Democrats to actually help out with this problem. So that way it kind of, let's just say it lightens the fire, as to say it doesn't burn as bright for immigration soon, because watch them suddenly just change course and say, you know what, we got to fix this case, we got to keep our voter base intact. Then again, at the same time, but knowing these idiots, they screw up their own screw up, so we'll see. As you guys can see, obviously this agenda has in fact failed, and people quite frankly can see right through it. I mean, that's really and truly what this entire thing is. I mean, it's what the hell it always was. It's just another game. It's just another game being around the American people. Let's have open borders. Let's have sanctuary cities. Let's go ahead and bring anybody in the world that we want over here, not believing that anybody would take it serious. And obviously, Greg Abbott, he decided to take him up on that offer. And guess what? Now they're flipping the bill. This move, by the way, was telegraphed, okay? It was telegraphed by former President Trump. Let me take you guys back in time. The year is 2019. The border issue is being talked about. Of course, you had a border surge. You had people coming in, trying to get across the border, trying to get to the United States before the midterm election. So Trump told the Democrats in Congress, and especially the Democrat mayors, he told them point blank, look, if you want the people who are coming across the border, I'll send them to your cities, because they wanted the people to go ahead and get across. They didn't want the border wall funding. I mean, they didn't want the wall built because obviously it's their next crop of voters. Republicans, by the way, have done a very, very good job of giving the anti-socialist message, which, by the way, has curbed some of these people's thinking. Not a lot, but it's curbed enough. Maybe enough to maybe temporarily save us. I'm not entirely sure. We'll look at that a little bit more thoroughly in the future. The thing was this right here. What he was trying to do was he was trying to call them on their bluff. Look, if you want these people, I'll send these people to your cities. Every blue city mayor, okay, every blue city mayor, every blue state mayor said the exact same thing. Hell no, we don't want these people, for the exception of one, Lori Lightfoot. Well, Lori Lightfoot is officially gone. Of course, Chicago, they decided to put somebody who was worse in place, Brandon Johnson, who only won by 3 points. That was the game. These people really and truly never cared about the migrants, but in fact their voters did, mostly due to the fact that they've been dipping down on heavy amounts of propaganda, and now they actually believe the nonsense. And of course, some people, they now see this, the more moderate section of the Democratic Party's voter base, they see this crap, they see it's completely unsustainable, and they're now seeing that it obviously affects their lives. So, yeah, you may have lost these people for good, but then again, though, at the same time, I don't know if I asked this question yet, I don't know if I asked this question or not. Can these people even be saved? Can they turn? Well, I'll tell you what will probably happen. You'll probably see a lot of these people stay home, but don't be surprised over the next few years they don't try to start moving to other places for the sole purpose of bluing up your red state or purpling it. I just figured I'd go ahead and throw that out there. With that right there being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and close this video down. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe if you're new here. Please leave a comment in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts, and I'll see you guys later.